So, okay. For this session, we have, it's from Cydentiq, and the speaker would be our the Cydentiq founder, Mr. Jason. And okay, now let's welcome him to, the floor is now yours, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Right, maybe I try to understand a bit before we start, right? Which industry are you guys from? Anyone from banking, insurance, educations, manufacturing? No, okay. Which industry you guys from? Storage management. Great. What about you guys? IT. Which industry? Sorry? Solution provider. Right, thanks. Let's maybe wait for another 2 minutes. Yeah, the crowds are coming in. Hi guys, we're going to start the talk soon. Do join us. We're going to talk about identity security. Try to 拉人进来啊，会比较好。因为全部进来哦，他们全部他们旁边那些啊。Still very less. I just wait for another 2 minutes to start. Yeah. Still a bit of time.
Okay. Hello guys, we still have seats in the front, so can you guys come in front and sit? I am so Hi, please sit down, yeah? Okay. Excuse me everyone, there's still seats here. We are starting very soon, so please have a seat, relax and wait for the presentation.
Most of them are solution provider. Some of them are. But it's fine. Yeah, but it's fine.
I will go for one round and Tarek will work it. But they are not following me. Boleh duduk dekat sini. We are starting our presentation soon. Just okay. Hi, we have seats in the front. So please have a seat. We're starting very, very soon. Yes, come have a seat. We're starting soon. Hi everyone, now we are starting now. Okay, so here is our presenter, Mr. Jason Lim from Cydentiq. He is the CEO and founder of Cydentiq. Now, I will pass the floor on to you, sir.
Thank you. Very good morning to all of you. Let's start the show. So today we have a very interesting topic to cover. This is where identity meets security, right? And I'm going to share some of the best practice and the tips. How do you navigate your identity access management program, right? Let's get it kickstart. Now, to understand the facts about today's access landscape, right? We are in the digital and interconnected world, right? So everything's that what we are demanding is that anyone want to access to anything using any device from anywhere, right? Like it or not, this is a fact today, right? People want fast access, right? So, but what is the real problem with when it comes to access management? I always like to use these beautiful castles to start out my identity topics, right? This is where a lot of organizations, in the past would like to put everything's, all your servers and endpoints, everything's back behind the walls, right? And just lock it with the key and thinking this is a security. But the fact is that today, if you still impose such a security controls, it's no longer be effective, right? We know that there are hackers that could come from internal or could be external as well, right? So how do you protect this whole thing? Let's quickly look at this landscape. This is what happens traditionally, right? This is a parameter. And what we really think is that the new trends going up is identities is really hitting the last defense when it comes to security, right? Why is that important? It's driven mainly from digital transformations. As things go digital, that we discuss about the access, right? We want fast access to all these things, including when you go for digital journeys, the way how you onboard your users got to be very fast. So we talk about authentication, authorization later. We also seen the huge trends of remote workforce growing, right? Due to COVID, that people need to work from home. They no longer come to office. So these are the trusted employees that you used to believe and trusted, but now they're no longer inside your office, right? You couldn't see them, you couldn't touch them, right? And we also see a very interesting trend here. When we talk about increasing identities, we can look at a few elements here, right? Your supply chain, your contractors, or even many businesses are going through merger and acquisitions. So this will introduce different set of challenges when it comes to managing the identity. And next, many organizations also start to adopt multi-cloud as well, right? So you have servers that's sitting on-prem or on the cloud. How do you manage these infrastructures? And for organizations that adopt BYOD or BYOI, bring your own identities, and this is really about, the practice, how do you control such access that's coming in? And lastly, of course, we all know that attacks are getting very sophisticated today, right? So a lot of identity-related incidents that's happening, right, which I will share it later on, right? So this will open up your minds that how to think that why identity is very important in your business today. Now, second trend, very quickly, I'd like to share is that we see a huge trend of growing machine identities over humans, right? These machine identities typically are driven by the adoptions of RPAs. So if today your organization is adopting the RPA solutions, you will see that there's a lot of robots that you are actually putting down to the ground to automate a lot of business processes. Now, these robots, without a certain access, and especially administrative access, they won't be able to complete the job, just like human, right? When you need to create IDs, when you need to assign rights, you need certain level of access. So the same goes to robots. But the problem with robots is that many organizations tend to ignore them, or thinking that no one will touch these accounts, right? Because it's non-human, right? But essentially, this is what we see. The trends of attackers are going towards machine identity, exploit this particular access, and grant the access to entire networks. This is the trend that we are seeing today, right? Including growing IoT devices. And the next, we can look at DevOps. So if your organizations are adopting DevOps heavily, you have a lot of service accounts, you have a lot of jobs that's helping you to do that, and all this need to be granted with certain level of access as well. Right. The third trend that I would like to share is that the threat landscapes that we really see evolving for all the IT infrastructures that you have, with all these identity tracks that you can see, right? We start with privilege misuse. How many of you know about golden ticket attack? It's an attack that will involve exploiting your access to your Active Directory, and then after that they got the golden ticket, then they can hop around to your entire networks. This is very common happening, right? So all these are identity threats. And what we really need here is a intelligence-based context, right? Because more data doesn't mean good to you, right? Unless it provides a value to you, right? So intelligence-based context, what it means is that you need intelligence to understand what are the assets that maybe your peers have. For example, if you are from finance department, right? And what are the typical common assets that you have? And you will be able to analyze and suggest to you that these are the assets that rightfully should be given to your employees or your peer, right? So this is one type of example. And we also need policies to orchestrate based on certain event. For example, there's a new joiner coming into your organization, what kind of the right access they're supposed to give to them. So all this will be facilitated by the automations of policy orchestration. Come in front, there's more seat. And next, when we talk about security, there's always, we talk about prevention, things like that, right? But it's important to have a good detect and respond mechanisms. What if, to handle what if scenario, right? What if it's happened? How do you detect that and how do you respond to it? How do you remediate, right? So this is very important. With these three elements, this is where that we would like to actually emphasize that we help organizations to shape identity fabric architectures, which will empower with strong and robust connector frameworks to actually do the integrations with all your system and applications, right? Be it sitting on the cloud or on-prem. This framework is very important as part of your cybersecurity strategies to ensure that people are grounded with the right access at the right time and doing the right thing for the right reason. Right. Thanks to all the digital transformations and technology advancement, we have seen security have evolved to a very complex situations, right? When we start from data security and then you have talked about endpoint security, I'm sure you go around the booth, you will find that some of the specialized vendors are on endpoint securities. And we also look at application security, network security as well. And lastly, what we really see here is that identity security is wrapped across all these technologies, right? Because any technologies that you are dealing with, it will have to deal with authentication and authorizations, right? How do you log into your DLP? How do you log into your SIAM, right? It's all about access, authentication, and authorization, okay? This is what we're gonna focus and discuss a lot more today. All right, why IAM is important? It impacts everyone within your organizations, right? Today you think about it, the moment that you join your organizations, you are started your life cycle within the organization, right? So how many of you that are required to do compliance? User access review, right? You need to do user access review to ensure that people are not granted with excessive access, right? This is very common, especially you are regulated by Bank Negara, RMIT, PCI DSS, ISO 27001, SOX, so and so forth, right? So this is a nightmare, right? Many organizations that I spoke with, right, some of them require to do quarterly access review. And guess each access review campaign require 3 months to complete. So imagine by the time they go to the system and crunch the data in January, and they start populating and sending out to all the managers to do review, by the time it comes back March, you are closing your cycle. And whatever access that you extracted from January may not be relevant because access is changing every single day. People will request for access in February. So you are not able to complete your entire cycle within an effective manner, right? This is a problem. How do you catch up? You are forever catch up. By the time you complete in March, you're going to start in April, right? So it's a never ending. And next, well, this is a very interesting topic. Whenever auditors catch it, why these guys already left for 6 months, the ID you never remove. The first blame will go to who? IT, right? Because IT is supposed to clean up the IDs, right? But the entire blame, it cannot go to IT, right? Because IT will need to depend on who? HR, right? HR will know upfront, firsthand, who joined, who left the organization, correct or not? So IT will start to point the finger to HR. Well, you never inform me, you inform me, but you never tell me when is the last day, you know, things like that. There's a lot of debate going on, right? We don't want that to happen, right? We want the system to be able to govern this particular access. Help desk. Some of you, if you are very familiar with IT administrations, right, you would face this kind of nightmare, right? Like, you are so frustrated why these people keep on forgetting their password, why their account is locked every single day, right? And guess what? This kind of job, right, is a very boring job. Someone sitting down there just to reset password and unlock accounts. Even today, if you were to hire intern, no one will do their job. Sorry, right? So it has to be phased out, right? You need a system to actually solve this problem. Well, if you are an IT, you are forever administrator. You are forever super user, right? Because without that, you can't do your work. So the problem is that how do you manage administrator access in an effective manner, all right? Privilege creep. When you join your organizations, you always started with a default access. Maybe you just have a file system access, right? But over the time, your access will incrementally increase. Your access will not be reducing. This is a fact, right? No one will raise a hand and say that, hey, I got the extra access, please remove it. No one will do that, right? So how do you manage this kind of scenario? Do you have a problems of waiting 2 weeks, 1 week, 3 days to get your access? When you join organizations, how fast you got your laptop access, how fast you got your AD accounts, your email access, okay? So it could actually affect the productivities, right? If I were to wait until 2 weeks time, 1 week's time to get the access, right? And machine identities is what we have discussed earlier. They are always accounts that hard-coded with password inside somewhere, right? Inside a script, program, applications, which you cannot change the password, you cannot touch it. When you start to ask who owns this account, no one will raise a hand, right? So some of my customers just go ahead and disable or delete the accounts. Then they will be able to find out who's the ownership in a week time. Because things start not working, right? So you know that, oh, apparently you own these processes, right? You should have told me, right? All right, and for organizations that adopted cloud, obviously your contractors, developers wanted to have access all the time. How do you manage this? All right, so understanding all these problems, this is where we come up with our framework. We call identity security frameworks. These frameworks it's very robust and holistic, covering human identity and machine identities. And over the right-hand side is all about the resources, right? The resources, be it applications, operating system, database, and so forth. what we really need to discuss here is the first authentications, right? It's about who you are, who you claim you are, right? And then we have authorizations. It's about what can you do. These two is an important elements in identity security, right? When I say that you are authorized to do something, it doesn't mean you can do it until you prove who you are. Right? Follow me. Huh? So this is a very important topic. And then we want to talk about access. How can you access for how long? And lastly, audit. What you did. So you really have to prove that what you have did that comes with all this comprehensive audit. With this 4A, this is where we start map to all the solutions capabilities, all right? So on top there is all these are X solutions pillar, right? So if you are interested to find out more later on after this talk, right, you can come to drop by our booth. We can actually explain it in more details. So today I'm just going to cover it in very high manners about this particular framework. So as you navigate identity governance, this is where you can see that there's a lot of weightage around audit, right? Because we are talking about governance. We want to ensure the right people having the right access, right? So it will help you to automate your entire access review. After this, no more Excel, right? The system will actually provide you a platform for all the managers to sign on and look at what your team access is all about, right? And then you can make decisions over there. You want to retain or revoke the access. So there's a lot of weightage around access certifications. And when we move on to lifecycle will basically look at automated provisionings. When you talk about joiner, mover, leavers, right, we will be automatically help you to create the IDs based on your role, based on your titles, based on your departments, right? There's a lot of attribute that will be able to use it to create the IDs accordingly, right? And then when we navigate to privileged access management, privileged access management has a very balanced portfolio, right? Because it actually it provides you a password vault to manage all your administrative credentials centrally inside a single platform. And then we will be able to provide you an access request workflow to request for the access to make sure that all the privileged access can be done just in time, right? Not standing access. And then from there, thanks to section management technology, we will be able to help the users to automatically sign on and connect to the servers or database without exposing you the password, right? Those days, imagine all your administrative credentials that everyone knows about it, your vendors know about it, your entire team knows about it. People are sharing password across, right? So you don't want that to happen. So as you have a secure password vault, this is where that will help you to automatically sign on to the server without exposing the password to you. And best that it comes with recording, right? A privileged access management will give you user activity monitoring so that you are able to record real times of what this guy is doing in your servers. All right? Single sign-on is all about, as the name suggests, remember one single ID. That's about it, right? So you need to remember. Imagine today you have 50 applications in your organizations, and every applications come with different password. So you will bound to password fatigue issues. Right? With single sign-on, you will be able to seamlessly help end users to sign on to the applications without prompting a lot of password, right? So typical SSO implementations will come with MFA, right? So MFA, multi-factor authentications, you all know the importance of this. You guys done online bankings, you all are bounded with OTPs, all this authentication. So all these are the form of multi-factor authentication. Similarly, in the enterprise environment, we need MFA to be enforced to ensure that all the access to the sensitive data are all governed. Right, and not to forget about data access governance is where that we will actually centrally correlate all the access to a single platform to talk about all the unstructured data, file or folders access, all right? And then we have insider management and customer identity access management, CIAM, right? So those of you, if you are interested to find out more about this, do drop by. We will discuss this further. Next, let's look at the entire concept of how IAM works. Okay? Imagine we are building an IAM system in the middle of your enterprise, right? What we need to do, the first thing is to integrate with your HR system, right? So there are many ways to integrate to your HR system. Why is it important to integrate the HR system? It's because HR is the authority of source, right? It contains all the active employees that you have in your organizations, right? So this is a right platform for you to serve as an authority source. Once you integrate with your HR, the next thing we're going to do is to start integrate with all your surrounding applications. It can be your Active Directory, it can be your email, core banking, SAP, Oracle, whatever system that you have in your organizations. Once we've done that, we can continue to integrate to all your file folders, OneDrive, SharePoint, all this kind of platform. Now imagine a new joiner, Alex, joined the organization at finance department, reporting to this manager. And first working day is actually on the 1st of July, right? So once we have this data, once HR key in inside the HR system, this is where, because of IAM has a tight integrations, that we will be able to understand this event upfront, right? When the users join the organization, we will automatically create the IDs on day one, right? This is how it works. And along the time, Alex maybe request for new access, right? This is where IAM system will provide you a workflow for you to submit your request. You can request for VPN access or any other system of access, right? So the workflow will subject for approvals. Once it's approved, if you enable your SSO, you will be able to sign on seamlessly to the system, right? This is the ecosystem of access. Now, if Alex is required to access the sensitive data, what do? There could be a separate, more stringent workflow introduced, right? Where you will subject for you with further authentications before you can access. And when you are accessing this data, you are subject for monitoring, all right? Whenever you go into a database, whatever activities that you've done in the servers, everything will get recorded. All right? Comes with notification as well. Now, Alex, after work for 3 years, he may continue his journey and move on to marketing. All right? When he moved to marketing department, so his old system access that required to be removed. All right? So how can the solutions actually do it in better manners and automated manners? Until he leaves the organizations, right? And all his access has to be disabled immediately, right? So this is a whole cycle of identities that we would like to actually discuss further and govern, right? And not to forget for data that it will continuously helping you to request folders, right? And lastly, this is a very important part is that access review. It's a checker-maker process, right? So you have all the continuous administrations that's going on your identities, and it's important to also look at how do you review the particular access, okay? So these are the top 10 common pitfalls of IAM programs, right? As we navigate of your identity journeys, so some of you may have done your IAM projects, and you know that whenever you start your IAM projects, they're going to bound with all these kind of challenges, all right? So here, I would like to conclude the top 10, right? I'm not going to go through each of it due to the interest of time, right? Let me just highlight a few. Number one, many organizations start with IAM journeys without a proper roadmap. So basically, they do not know how far they can go, where they are today, right? So maybe they are very targeted. Is I want to do SSO. I want to make sure my end user is happy, right? Because today they are very struggling. Remember all these passwords, a lot of passwords. So the thought process is always very silo, SSO. Then they will come to vendor like us to say that, Jason, I want to implement SSO. That's it, right? So to consultant like us, right, we normally will go in to understand what is the entire landscape, identity landscape within the organizations before we actually propose anything, right? Because the client doesn't know that what is identity is all about, right? So having a proper defined IAM roadmap is very important, and then this will related to your strong executive sponsorship. Many IAM projects that fail to scale is because there are only one phase, and that phase about last phase, no more, right? Because they are not able to articulate and present the values to the management about why do you need to implement IAM. Not engaging the right key stakeholders is also very common happen, right? Meaning to say, there are IT leaders who will come to you and say that, why do I need to talk to HR system? Why do I need to involve SAP application owner to come in to this project? This is an IT project. Why? And guess what? This kind of thought process will lead you to a problem of rolling out your IAM, essentially, right? You cannot ignore all these key stakeholders. You need to make sure that whenever you start your journey, these are the people you need to get involved. One time deploy and finish. Like I said, you call phase 1, and that's the last phase. That's it, no more. After 10 years, 5 years, you revisit back the customer, it's the same thing. All right? Next, we also like to talk about application integration complexity. So one of the areas that commonly happen is that, how do you integrate IAM to all your systems, right? Some of you may be asking. And the typical vendors will tell you, well, when you have a standards, SAML, OAuth 2, right, all these standards, right, API, we can use it to do integrations. But many organizations, they may not be that robust or modern, right? There are a lot of applications, maybe 50 of the applications are not enabled with API. How do you integrate? And guess what? If you do not do the proper advisory to clients, they will tend to actually select the apps that is going nowhere, no applications. That is where that a lot of IAM projects will tend to drag very long time, from 6 months to 1 year, 1.5 years, and never be even able to roll out at all, right? This is a problem. There's a lot of hidden costs attached to it, right? When you need to ask vendors to build API. Okay, I want to touch about last point. In all of the IAM journeys, right, be sure to accept changes, right? This is where we actually educate our clients upfront, right? We have not seen any IAM projects that will be able to go live successfully without a single change, right? For example, you buy your IAM tools that you expect the tools to do real-time provisioning, right? We have discussed this earlier. When employees come day one, you want the employees to have the access, right? We talk about that. But if today your HR is compiling all the new joiner and leaver data once a month, by end of the month, you can never achieve what you want. The HR process need to be changed, all right? So this is what we would like to share about the top 10 pitfalls. Let's quickly navigate about, I want to share these 4 simple steps to navigate your IAM program. First, when you start your IAM program, it's important to know about your why. What is the business driver here? So typically, we have 4 business drivers. You can come from compliance. Compliance will give you a very clear regulatory requirements, how you need to govern the access control for all your identities, all right? And it can come from a form of security as well, right? In securities, there's a lot of topic that we can discuss to keep up your identity hygienes, all right? Making sure that all the level data are removed in a timely manner, right? And we can also come from IT operation. Remember we shared about the workload just now, right? 5,000 requests come in to help desk, right? So we can also look into reducing IT workloads and essentially reduce the cost of your IT operations. If this is the drivers, then all your initiatives should be aligned to this business driver itself. And lastly, user productivities. You want to increase the users' satisfactions of working in your organizations and at the entire onboarding process of your new joiners, right? Or simplify and streamline all the users to your relevant system. So these are the common 4 drivers that we help organizations to quantify. Some organizations may have a combination of 2 or 3 or even 1 of it. So once we understand the business driver clearly, we will be able to actually design an IAM roadmap that is actually tailored to these particular needs. Right, this is our frameworks, right? These frameworks will cover, our identity maturity framework will cover these 6 domains, start from identity core processes, and then directories, governance, lifecycle access management, and privilege access management, right? So this framework is adopted to IDSA, right? IDSA stands for Identity Defined Security Alliance, right? It's a framework, it's a global framework that we are adopting, and this framework will be able to help you to not just look at the maturity of each of the domain, but we also help you to define how your application is going to integrate with IAM system later on, which is a very important as we don't want to end up with situations that customers pick the application that they are not ready to integrate, all right? And lastly, we'll use these metrics to map with the market leading indicators of IAM capabilities metrics. I'll share these capability metrics in my next slide, all right? So with this mapping and all this mapping done, that will be able to help clients to actually design a proper and well-defined IAM roadmap, okay? Next, when we talk about identity maturity level, this is where that we have these 5 levels defined, and we are using a CMMI by Isaka, right? So client typically requires to pick which level that you want to go, all right? So for example, the client wants to go level 3, right? They selected level 3 as a destination, right? Then when we start the assessment, this is where that we would like to actually find out where you are. It's like your current location, like a GPS, right? Where are you right now? And how long do you need to take to go to level 3, right? All this, and what do you need to do? What do you need to take actually to complete your entire journey to go level 3, right? This is where that we will be providing all this information to our clients. This is one of the sample reports. So we provide this report by each domains. We have an individual scorecard inside the report, and it will be clearly defined and describe where you are, right? For example, their client is looking for level 3, and then based on some of the controls, they are in level 2, or some they are in level 1. And in this case, when you are in level 1 or 2, there could be some of the risks that are associated to this, and then we will actually highlight inside that particular report. And not only that, we will also give you a recommendation as well. So the recommendations is a practical recommendation advice that you can actually put on the ground to execute it, right? How do you move from level 1 to level 2, level 2 to level 3? Right, let's continue to move on. This is the overall. We have in this engagement, we have 31 controls cut across the 6 domains itself. So these 31 controls will illustrate your entire maturity and posture of your identity within your organizations, right? As you could see, some of the practice that the organizations are adopting could be better than what they are looking for, all right? This is an IAM capabilities matrix, which is, I have constant conversations with IAM Gartner analysts as well when it comes to IAM technology landscape. So this is a market leading technology landscape. When we talk about identity governance and administration, IGA, right? These are the common capabilities that you could expect from a solution vendors to provide to you. And then we also have a PAM, right? Privilege Access Management. And lastly, we have AM, Access Management. Right? Access management is all related to authentication and authorizations, right? People like Okta, Ping Identity, they are all under AM, right? Most of them are focused in AM, right? With this, we also have a shared capabilities cut across, like how do you connect, connector framework, workflow, reporting engine, so on and so forth, right? This is the metrics that we help our clients to map to their current identity components, right? Each of it will have a different score. Right, this is also a sample of actionable IAM roadmap. So when we complete the assessment, this is what our clients will receive. A roadmap plan on high level, right? How do you navigate and split by a different identity components? For example, if you would like to start your identity lifecycle journey, and we see that your HR process requires certain improvement, right? In order to actually, so before you actually go ahead to purchase the product or select what tools, right? You will require to spend 3 months effort to basically look at how do you want to improve your HR processes first, right? So this is important. You don't go direct to select the tools, and in the middle of running the projects, you find that your HR process got gap, and it will take you 3 months, 6 months to improve that process. So your entire technology projects will get dragged, all right? This is common, right? We don't want that to happen. And now come back. Step number 2 is where that once you have a proper roadmap, this is where you start formalize your IAM program. And as part of this initiative, it's important to formalize, as part of formalizing the program, you need to have an IAM governance framework. The governance framework is important because as part of the IAM journey, as I mentioned, you are required a lot of changes to happen. So typically, we will advise organizations to form 2 groups, business advisory group and technical advisory group. While business advisory group will basically look at holistically on the processes. Any applications that require to change certain processes will need to go through this particular committee and identify the gaps and make the improvement and decision to go ahead. While technical advisory groups will look at how do you integrate, how do you pull the data out from all your applications, right? So once this is done, and then be sure to go with multi-phase approach, never to be a single phase, all right? Multi-phase approach is important, where your phase one, it has to be a quick win approach. A quick win is nothing but you have to define it within 3 to 6 months time, right? You don't want your IAM projects to run 1 year, right? Where all your stakeholders could have changes, people could be resigning and come out from a project already, and you still haven't go live, all right? That is very bad. So you want a quick wins where you can immediately introduce and roll out your certain IAM services based on your business driver and priorities, all right? And lastly, so this is where that when you deliver your quick win values, that you are able to get your stakeholders and executive sponsorship to gain confidence in your program to continuously funding your IAM program, all right? And once you've done this, once you've done your IAM projects, this is where you need to think about how you operate it, how you run, right? In a running state that you will have to establish your IAM operating model. There could be several models that you can adopt, whether you actually want to outsource to an IAM a professional company like us to run as a managed services, or you basically want to enable and train up your internal to empower them to actually equip them with the right IAM knowledge to continue sustain their operations, day-to-day operations. And next, we also have to look at incident response plan, right? We talk about what if an identity-related incident happened. Someone is actually exploiting the dormant accounts and use it to actually do a lateral movement across to your networks. So when you detect this, right, how do you respond to it, right? You need to have a very clear incident response plan to identify, detect, and finally do the remediations, right? The next, we need to talk about when you deploy your IAM technologies, how you're going to maintain it, right? You need to have a system, health checks, and all the preventive measures that come around it. Right, next, once you have established your proper IAM program and you have established your foundation in your technology, so what could happen the next is that you can start looking into developing a application onboarding framework, all right? So in your phase one, you could have just integrate 5 applications, 10 applications, but as you navigate, you may have more applications, like 5, from 5, you actually have a total of 30 applications, 50 applications. How long it takes for you to complete. So by having a standard onboarding framework, this will expedite your entire time to value, right? Your rollout will be very fast. And you also need to actually integrate with all your surrounding technologies, such as SIEM. Everyone knows about SIEM, right? It's a platform to collect all the logs centrally, right? So similarly, to when you deploy your IAM, you need to send the feeds to SIEM, because SIEM will have sources from all others platform, such as device or network, right? And similarly, and these integrations has to be bi-directional integrations. It's never to be one IAM sending logs to SIEM. SIEM should have an integration back to IAM. If SIEM catch that there is a pattern that people are doing a massive attack to your organization using a single account, and that account has to be disabled immediately, that's where SIEM is sending the alerts to IAM to immediately disable or remove this particular account temporarily, all right? So be sure to look at the use case of bi-directional integration. And lastly, adopt AI and ML in your IAM platforms. It's very crucial, right? Because these are the technology will be able to give you a lot more intelligence-based context, as we shared earlier. All right, lastly, and do a regular identity maturity assessment to make sure that you are always on top of an industry standard, all right? Right, that's what I would like to share today, right? So I hope you guys enjoy the sessions and you have some key takeaways from these sessions, right? Because identity is a really, really important element as part of your cybersecurity strategies, right? So do drop by our booth, just at the MDEC, just right behind that corners, right? And you can actually discuss more with our identity professionals, right? Thank you, guys.